Today you guys are going to learn how to use Google Sketchup, which is a free program that allows you to draw in 3 dimensions. So to get started, you guys are going to go to your desktop and look for the icon that says Sketchup 2016. Double click on it, and when you have it up, you'll see a screen similar to this. And what you'll need to do is click on the button that says Start Using Sketchup. When you do that, you may end up coming straight to this screen, or you may see something that says Select Template. Click on that, and then it'll say feet and inches. Stay in feet and inches, and then just click the button underneath that says Start Using SketchUp. Then it will take you to a screen that looks like this. Now, what you'll notice in Google SketchUp is that we are now drawing in 3 dimensions, and you have 3 axes here. And what I like to distinguish is that the green axis is what I like to call the y-axis, and you guys are probably familiar from math class and doing the Cartesian coordinates, which uses the x and y axis. So the green axis is what I call the y-axis, the red axis is what I like to call the x-axis, and then the blue axis is what I call the z-axis. So we have 3 dimensions here and 3 axes. So some of the things that I'll show you here in Google SketchUp, if you look up on your toolbar here, you've got the select tool, which you can select different things. So if you were to come down here, you can select something. You know it's selected because it turns blue. If you want to unselect, you just click somewhere else. Next is you have an eraser tool that erases things that if you made a mistake or if you drew a line, you can click on it with the eraser, it gets rid of it. Next is the pencil, which is your line tool. It allows you to draw straight lines as well as freehand lines. Next are your arcs. Then you have your shapes tool. You click on the pull down, you've got different shapes that you can draw. We will mainly be doing rectangles. Next to that is your push-pull tool. We will use that when we draw a house. In this particular assignment, we're going to draw a house, and this is how we're going to give it a 3rd dimension. We're going to start out in 2 dimensions. This will give us our 3rd dimension. Next is our offset tool. This is our move tool. So if we were to, for example, put in a window and we didn't like where we placed it, we can select it, use the move tool, move it around. Next is our rotate tool. This is a tool that it's a little bit difficult to use. It's not as user friendly because remember now they're in 3 dimensions, so you can rotate about 3 different axes. Next is our scale tool. This allows us to make things bigger or smaller. Then we have our tape measure tool. This allows us to measure distances. It also allows us to draw guidelines. We have our text tool if we want to add text. This is our paint bucket. This is how we get to our 3D warehouse, or one of the ways we get to our 3D warehouse, which is how we're going to add a door and windows to our house that we're going to build today. It's also a way that we can add textures to our objects that we build. Next is our orbit tool. This is one of the tools that are very popular, one of the tools that we're going to use quite a bit. It allows us to orbit around our axes. Next is our pan tool. It allows us to go left and right, up and down our view, pan our view. Next is zoom. Usually I like to use the roller on the mouse. That seems to be a lot easier than using this tool. Next is zoom extents. This is very handy if you were to zoom out and you completely lose your view of your object and you think maybe you've accidentally deleted it. You can use your zoom extents and it brings you right back into your origin here. So I'll show you a little bit about your pan and your orbit tool. If you click on your orbit tool, what this does is this allows you to orbit around your different axes. These are very important because as we draw, we want different viewpoints. And so it's going to be very important that we use the pan tool and the orbit tool so that we can get to a different viewpoint. So now I'm zooming in and out, and we're going to pan. So first thing we want to do is I'm going to put my origin over to the lower left-hand corner. So I'm going to do some zooming, some orbiting to get my origin down here into the lower left corner. And the reason why I'm doing that is because when we draw our house, we want to draw a rectangle that's going to go into this XY plane. Remember, this is our Y-axis, this is our X-axis. So we want it in this XY plane. So now I'm going to go click on the rectangle tool because we're going to draw a rectangle. So what I want to do is, remember, a rectangle has sides. One of the sides is longer than the other. So I want my long side to be parallel to my x-axis and my short side to be parallel to the y-axis. So what I want to try to do is I want to try to draw a rectangle that has the long side this way. I'm going to try to get my long side to be close to 50 feet and my short side to be somewhere around 30 feet approximately. And I can do that by watching my dimensions box here. This is what's going to help me figure out how big my rectangle is going to be. And if you watch, the first dimension that shows up in my dimensions box is going to be the dimension that runs along the x-axis. So if you watch as I draw my rectangle, okay, if you notice, I'm just mainly going along the x-axis. If you notice, that's the number that gets bigger, that first number. So that's the dimension that runs along the x-axis. If I were just to run along the y-axis, you see that second number is the number that gets bigger. So now I'm going to draw a rectangle where I'm trying to get my first number to be close to 50 feet. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can get my second number. There we go. It doesn't have to be exact, somewhere along those lines. I've got about 50 and some change, 30 feet and some change. So I'm going to unclick my mouse and notice how it turns gray here. So I've got my layout for, this is a 2D layout for my house. Now I want to give it some height. I'm going to make this a 2-story house. So I think I'm going to take it up about 20 feet. So now I want to click on the push-pull tool. Click on the push-pull tool. If I come over here, if you notice, as I am hovering over my rectangle, you see a bunch of dots. Okay, so this is the surface that I want to push-pull. So I click on my mouse and hold it. If you notice, and if you watch my distance box, you can see how far I'm going. So I'm going to go up to about 20 feet. Okay, give or take a few feet, or excuse me, a few inches. So I'm going to get somewhere close. That's close, 20 feet and some change. So now I'm I can't really see a whole lot. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to take my orbit tool, and I'm going to orbit around to the short side. And I'm going to pan a little bit. Now, this is where I'm going to give my roof some pitch, and we're actually going to draw a triangle. So I'm going to click on my pencil tool because I want to draw some lines. So what I want to do now is I want to go across the top part here and find the midpoint. And Google SketchUp is going to tell me when I find the midpoint. I found the midpoint. Now I'm going to draw an angle line down to the edge here. Okay, now I don't want to go down too far because I want this to be a 2-story house. So I want to have some area to work with. So I think I'm going to drop it down to about right here. Okay, so now I still have my line tool. I'm going to pick it up. Notice that it says endpoint. Make sure that you are on the edge here, because if you're not, then our next step's not going to work. Pick it up. Now I want to go straight across. Notice how it's a green line. It's green because it is parallel with my y-axis, and this is good. We want it green. So now we go all the way over to the other side, make sure it says on edge, and then we close out our triangle. Okay. Now let's orbit a little bit. Now we want to get rid of this material up above. So we're going to click on our push-pull tool, and then we're going to push it all the way over, push it all the way over until it disappears, and then let's click on the eraser and get rid of that line. So now here comes the fun part. I'm going to orbit around and then pan to the front of the house. And this is where we are going to go to the 3D warehouse, and we're going to pick a door and some windows. So I'm going to click on the paint bucket, and this is going to bring up the default tray. So here we've got materials. I don't want materials. I want my components list right here. And so for the 3D warehouse, notice it's got 3D warehouse here. I'm going to click on this pull down right here next to the house, and I'm going to click on architecture. What that's going to do is that's going to lay out some things for me. It's going to group a few things. So here we've got doors, cabinets, lighting, and then we've got some windows right here. So I'm going to click on doors. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring up a big window, and it's going to bring up a bunch of doors. So I'm going to say, I think I like this door. So I click on it, brings up a bigger picture. I like it. Click on the download, load it directly, yes. And then I'm going to place it right here at the front of my house. Boom, I just click and place it. Next, I want to pick some windows, so I come down and click on windows, and now I can look through, and I can look through some windows. Let's say that I see these and I really like them. I don't have to click on it. I just want to use the shortcut, so I can just click on this button here, download into the model, yes, and then I can just place them into my model right here. And if you need to, you can orbit around. Now let's say I don't like the placement of the window. I can use the move tool, and they're selected because they're blue. So I can go ahead and move them. Let's say I want to put them up here. So now I've successfully moved them. And you can keep picking different things. Go ahead and make this your own. If you would like, you can go back to the materials menu. You can pick different things for your house. Let's say you want stone for the front of your house. So you can choose a stone. If you want different kinds of, maybe you want some different siding on your house, then you can pick siding. You just click on it, and then you can just click on it. And what that does is that applies that particular texture. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm just looking to see if you put windows and doors into your house. But if you'd like to play around with different materials, you can go right ahead and do that. But have fun, make this your own, be creative. This is a really neat program, and then I hope you have fun with it.